Recording in progress.
Good evening. I will now call the Auburn Study Session meeting for Monday, March 31st, 2025 to order. Tonight's study session meeting will be held both in person and virtually. Sean, will you call roll?
I will.
I can't see you over there.
Deputy Mayor Rakes.
Here.
Councilmember Ammer.
Here.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember Clinton Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Manuel.
Here.
Sean, do we have any agenda modifications this evening?
No, Chair.
We have no announcements or reports on the agenda tonight, so we are going, let's see, I will now call up Candace. As your director, I'm sorry. To talk to us about the court.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Candace Martinson, Director of HR and Risk Management, and it's been a while since I've seen all of you, so good to see you all again. I am wanting to share with you all just an update on conversations that we've had with the presiding judge from King County District Court. There is some uncertainty right now around some of the information I'm sharing, but I have some forthcoming meetings scheduled with the presiding judge and the staff from King County District Court to get more information. So as I have more information, I will brief you, and obviously I've kept the mayor involved in some of the preliminary conversations. But as you are aware, and we had discussed through the two municipal court studies that were done, both the original one and the updated one with updated figures, that you all use to inform any potential vote to leave the King County District Court services by February 1 of this year. There was a lot of presentations and there was no indication at the time leading up to February 1st of 2025, that date that you needed to give the deadline if you chose to King County District Court, that we were going to assume responsibility for probation services. And so as you were briefed, that was one of the services that was included through our cost for our interlocal agreement that we were paying. And so I was informed in a meeting in March by the King County District Court staff and the presiding judge that there is a budget shortfall for King County. And one of the proposed solutions was to transfer the probation services back to the municipalities. And it was shared with me that King County District Court is looking for a full cost recovery model. And what that means is that preliminarily we are looking at a $514,000 charge before overhead costs for our probation services, in addition to the costs that we pay for the interlocal agreement for municipal court services. And also in part of the conversations that we've had with the folks at King County District Court, we have been made aware that in the current interlocal agreement, we're charged for court services for a limited number of clerks and a limited number of judges, but there are more staff that are housed down at the Auburn courthouse. So that includes the two probation officers that we will now be paying for, as well as some additional clerks. And there is going to be a case weighting study that is going to be done, no definitive dates, but I would think it would be reasonable to anticipate that if they are doing a full cost recovery model, that any of the folks that are housed at the Auburn courthouse that are working on behalf of any Auburn court cases will get charged back to us. So essentially what that means, from my perspective of what I'm witnessing and what I'm briefing you all on, is that any cost savings that we were experiencing from moving to the King County District Court and a contract for court services would most likely not be realized anymore. We would essentially be paying for full cost of court services. And I believe that that information is important to share with you all because that weighs into choices that we need to make as a city, whether we have our own municipal court or whether we contract for those services. And if we're essentially paying the same cost of contracting as we would in running the services ourselves, that's a big decision for all of you to discuss. And the decision timeline has been extended, so I was very concerned that I didn't feel that this information was shared with you all timely to be able to make that informed decision by February 1st of 2025 that you needed to make. And so the presiding judge has committed to a new deadline for you all to make that decision of May 12th, 2025. So I know that's a lot of information to kind of absorb on the spot, but I wanted to inform all of you in real time of what we're working through. We are 50% of King County District Court's probation budget. So the other larger city that contracts for district court services is Bellevue, and they have their own probation services that is ran out of their human services department. So they're doing a lot of the human services work that our human services department is doing for folks that are involved in the criminal justice system. They did not have a community court previously, so they are standing one up very soon. But we felt like there may be an opportunity for us to explore potentially providing probation services ourselves at a minimum, like Bellevue is, who also contracts for King County District Court services. We had the pleasure of talking with the folks that are a part of the City of Bellevue's Human Services Department, and they shared preliminarily with us that their human services budget that also encompasses probation is about $1.9 million. So I have had preliminarily broach the conversation with our Human Services Director, Kent Hay, and he was interested to discuss more what that would look like. So we have a lot of discussions that need to occur as we get more information, but just wanted to share that with you and take down questions that you all have to my first meeting that we're having as a working group working on this, or to answer the best of my ability any questions you have currently.
Council, do you have any questions? Councilmember Trout-Manuel?
When's your next meeting?
So we're working on securing dates right now because it's all of the King County District Court contract cities. So I'd have to check my calendar just to confirm if that's already been held by King County District Court. But it's supposed to be occurring in the next couple of weeks.
Council, any other questions? Councilmember Kate Baldwin. Go.
Just confirming, you said the new drop dead date for that decision is May 12th?
12.
Okay. And then what was the dollar amount that would be the increased charge on our current contract?
Preliminarily, right now, they quoted me in a meeting $514,000 before overhead charges. So I don't have a more definitive number than that.
And when there's, ma'am?
Go ahead.
When they're speaking of overhead charges, is that what's covered in the existing agreement or something new?
I anticipate it as something new, so a new charge.
Councilmember Trout-Manuel?
Follow up with that question, and the something new, would that be the additional clerks and You mentioned all the things that were going to be changed.
So right now, it's just overhead charges on probation services. So roughly in our last year's reconciliation, because we're about 6 months behind of our actual reconciliation. So for example, 2024 case counts, that's reconciled in June, July of 2025. So we're always about 6 months behind. So I know that there has been discussions about a case weighting study and potential that, dependent upon the outcome of that case weighting study, it might show that there's additional judicial or clerk time spent on our cases, and therefore then those charges would be charged back to the municipalities. So a full cost recovery model where King County would not be absorbing any of the costs to provide municipal court services for the city.
Thank you.
And that meeting is April 7th. Our first probation discussion as a group.
Any other questions, council members? I just have one. So how does that affect our budget,
This is currently unbudgeted.
unbudgeted? Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So our other item tonight, we have the proposed changes to city council rules and procedures, and I'm gonna turn that over to Councilmember Baldwin as she's the chair of that committee.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Today's session is probably gonna feel light compared to what we went through last summer, in that I wanted to provide a status update for the committee, which is I'm chair of the committee along with Deputy Mayor Cheryl Ricks and Councilmember Clinton Taylor. We have had approximately 4 hours of working time spread out over 2 sessions. We have gone through the packets through section 11. What we have put together so far and what has been shared out by legal or clerk is still in draft state, right? So I want that to be kind of the first thing top of mind, is that nothing has been, formally finished yet as far as the committee is concerned. And so in that, state, we do have time tonight where if you have new feedback, additive things that you would like to either recap from what you've submitted for your request so far, or things that you would like to make sure that the committee hears or that we as a full council hear, I wanted to make sure that we have time for that. So I'm not planning in this session to have us go through line by line the changes that have been made. I'd like to wait until we get through the full document. The reason for that is as we go through each section, we sometimes see things that are related to other sections. So we don't want to, say that this is done yet because we've got to get through the rest of it. The big section that we have, I think, so far the most feedback on is section 12, and that is what we'll be starting with in our next meeting, which is currently slated for April 11th. We're going to continue our work at that time, working with our clerk and our city attorney, Jason Whalen. But this is a moment, again, where I would just kind of open the floor. So if there's anybody who would like to let us know other feedback or input that you want us to take back into committee as we continue working through it, here's a chance to share for all of our ears. Yes.
I was waiting.
I know.
Also, I'd like to say, just Councilmember Baldwin said, there was a lot of feedback, and we've been combing through that to try to make sure that everybody's voice and their thoughts that they submitted are carefully looked at. And so I want to record and thank City Attorney Whalen for his input and just kind of helping us from a legal standpoint make sure that we're following all the our checks and balances with that, and then having Sean with us last week was also very helpful, which we anticipate hopefully that they'll be with us in this meeting coming up next week or week after. And just know that we've looked at them and we've made considerations based on, those recommendations. And so I would just want to say, be patient with the process, but everything that you wrote's not going to get in there. So we just need to say that. And so there needs to be some flexibility and be some balance with that, because some of it fit, some of it didn't, and some of it we found places early on in the first 11 sections to add some of that, and then some of it we didn't. But for the most part, I think a lot of the suggestions were good. But again, just keep in mind when we bring it to you with the final comb over that we've gone through, that was taken into consideration and that we didn't just not look at your recommendations really closely. So
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I was sharing earlier with Mayor in our 2-in-1 that the goals of the committee that we expressed right at the beginning is first and foremost to make sure that we don't do anything illegal, because we don't want to do that. So of course our goal is to make sure that anything that we put forward has been fully reviewed by city attorney and that we're working within that boundary. The second is to make sure that we're not creating unnecessary overhead for staff, whether that's the clerk or our legal team, and so making sure that we're not stepping into that arena that would be administrative, so staying within that line. And then last, that any changes that we make serve the community first. And so what that means is, sometimes we had feedback that we were considering, and then we heard recommendations from our counterparts who are assisting us that was useful and good from their experiences. And so in some cases, in trying to meet the spirit of what had been requested, we may have adapted that based off of feedback that we had heard from our city attorney and from our clerk. So I hope that that'll be something to bear in mind as we go forward as well. So those are our 3 tenets: keep it legal, no unnecessary work for staff, and serve the community first and foremost. And so when we come back, we'll see if we're able to get through the remainder of the packet on the 11th. I hope that we will, but I know 12 is going to be a big one, and so we may have to do more than one session. I think we're currently targeting Jason?
April 28th.
April 28th to be able to bring back what we think will be a ready document. And even when we get to that session, the goal in that session is at that point we should have everything drafted up that we feel we can bring forward for council to consider. And that will be, again, another opportunity for feedback. So if we get to that point and you either have any questions that haven't, been able to be cleared with our city attorney, but you still have something that you think needs modification, we're open to hearing it. So even as we work through this, we're not done until we get it done. That being said, we also don't want it to take forever. So I think we are going to try and be ready for that April date and make sure that you have time to review it in advance. But again, committing that, what goes forward will be something that we can all feel like we can support. So that's my update. Does anyone have any questions for the committee?
I appreciate what you were saying in the sensitivity, especially when it comes to staff time. I do want to go on record saying that we really should be very, very conscious about what we decide to move forward and the resources it would take away from running the city. So thank you for acknowledging that. But I think that we really need to keep that forward focus as well while serving our city, but we also have to have our staff be able to serve the city as well.
Totally agree, or rather couldn't agree more. And I think, Mayor, we've also shared that we're ready to hear your input when you feel like you want to convey
Yes.
that to us.
Appreciate that very much.
Anything you would want to add for tonight's session?
No, I agree with those 3 tenets though very much and appreciate them. That is looking out for the city and the residents to make sure that we are doing everything in the appropriate manner in a way that is respectful of the work that they have elected us to do.
All right. here. This is also, a time for discussion. So if you want to speak to anything that you've shared so far, that you want to reframe for us while you've got us in the room, this is also our listening time.
I just want to echo the same thing. I am so glad that you took all three of those under considerations. Because foremost, we have to think about our constituents and make sure that we're doing the job that, they also agree that we should be doing. Also, be mindful of our clerks, our staff, using our staff, because they're not here to correct us, they're here to work with us. So I am so grateful that you pointed that out as well. Thank you.
Certainly.
I will hold my thought when we will come to review it.
Okay, fair enough. I'll accept
you.
that.
Oh, just FYI, these first 11 sections was, they went fairly well, but just, the biggest section that was gonna take the most time, honestly, is section 12. Because we had a lot of feedback on that section, and so just give us a little grace too, because there was a lot of feedback on section 12, so just wanted to throw that out there.
And I think, sure.
Sure.
I think to that point, just affirming, as we bring this forward, we are all practicing our hand at these updates and at this policy. So if there's something in language that could, do with the rewording or do with some adjustment, we want it to be something that any future council member can use as a point of reference, but that can be flexible and make sure that we have the ability to get the job done at the end of the day. So we don't want to paint ourselves into a corner, but we won't. I'm trying to think. Sorry, my old journalism days, you have to deal with edits, right? Like you just have to accept that even what we create out of the committee may not be perfect, and we acknowledge that. But what we're working towards is good enough that we can feel like we're good for this year, and then if there's something that we don't get, we'll have a chance again next year. So that's, I think, my last for the day. All right, last call. All right, back to you, Deputy.
Meeting's adjourned.
Look at that.
Well,
For real?